The infection is spreading through your community, and Raxxon Pharmaceuticals is here to help you contain the infection before it spreads to the greater population. With your Raxxon Evacuation Kit, you'll learn how to do just that in your community. So let's take a look at Raxxon. With your Raxxon Evacuation Kit, you will be trained how to aid Raxxon Pharmaceuticals in the evacuation of all healthy citizens from your community and how to quarantine and/or eliminate contaminated ones before infection can spread. First, there will be a deck of citizen cards that's made up of both healthy and contaminated people. You need to get all the healthy people out of that deck and into the evacuation pile to win. To do this, we manage the crowd gathering outside of your facility. This is made up of a grid of face-down cards dealt from that deck. When cards in the grid are revealed, they have icons at the bottom that could trigger based on the other face-up cards in the grid. For example, having 2 face-up chaotic cards with the eyeball icon will cause you to add another citizen to the crowd, and having 3 will end the round prematurely, which can be disastrous. Each character has a series of actions it can take on its turn. Each time you take one of these actions, you must place a token on the space next to it. Once those spaces are filled, you can no longer perform that action in this round. The first thing you do on your turn is you perform all the consequences of your actions. Each token on your character sheet will activate the icon above it. Sometimes it will force you to reveal face-down cards, add new cards to the crowd, or add more infected people to the deck. The more icons you have to resolve, the greater your chance that something awful will happen. Then you take your action. You can investigate. This allows you to turn over cards in the crowd. You can also evacuate a series of healthy cards from rows and columns to the evacuation pile. You can quarantine infected cards to get them out of the crowd. You can even kill infected people and throw them into the discard pile. Sometimes you'll need to draw and resolve a Raxxon card. These are story events that often have options at the bottom that the player must choose from. You gotta choose wisely, as benefits can turn into problems later, or helping Raxxon will increase their power track. No one wants Raxxon to have too much power. Players can pass at any time to stop having to activate their consequences. Once all the players have passed, the round ends and you reveal all the remaining cards in the crowd. For each infected card in the crowd and the ones that have broken free from your quarantine, you'll add new infected cards to the deck. Then you'll shuffle the discard pile and the main deck together. If the infection supply deck is ever completely empty, you're gonna lose the game. If the Raxxon power track ever gets to 8, you also lose the game. Just make sure that you get all the healthy people from the deck into the evacuation pile before that happens, and your community will be completely safe. Promise. This is kind of a kooky sort of game for our board game community, and that all comes in the fact that there aren't many people that know that this game exists. And the people that do know it exists, it's kind of difficult for them to get, because Plaid Hat has implemented this viral marketing campaign where you just can't buy it. You can't buy it from them, you can't buy it online, you can't buy it at a store. You can only buy it if somebody who already owns the game invites you to buy it. Every person who owns it gets 3 invites. They send them out to whoever they want. They have the opportunity to buy it, and it's sort of like it spreads from there like a virus. This game is about infections. This is sort of like they're trying to get that whole infection concept going in there and sort of building a little bit of hype because it's really difficult to get. I think this is a terrific marketing campaign. It's really fun. It's just fun that like people want it and they look for it. They go and they ask people, "Oh, I see you have it. Do you have any recruitments left?" "Yes." And you send them the email and they get to buy it. It's kind of fun. I imagine that they're going to just release it widely eventually. And this is sort of their building up to it, building a little bit of suspense and hype and things. And then they're going to eventually release it. Maybe they don't, maybe they won't. I don't know. But I think they should, because the game is really cool. And that's one of the things that I was a little worried about at the beginning, because when I got this and I realized what the whole marketing thing was, I was like, man, this game's got to be really good to support that whole viral thing that they're doing. And I looked at the back of the box. I'm like, I don't know if this is gonna be that great. But when I did play it, I was like, wow, this is a solid cooperative game. First off, it's very abstract. That's one of the things that turned me off initially. I mean, obviously, this is the zombie plague. This is a prequel to Dead of Winter. This is before the plague went crazy. This is, you're just still trying to contain it in small communities. You know, you're trying to look at the crowd, and the crowd of people is a grid of cards, and the evacuation location is just a square, and the contamination is just a square. It's kind of tough to get the theme out of that. But where the theme really comes through is through the mechanisms that make this game operate. This game is about infection. It's about a zombie plague spreading, and the mechanics really do that well. When you start the game, you have 30 healthy people in the deck, and you have about 15 infected. By the end of the game, you have like 40 infected and like 2 healthy, and you're going crazy because you can't find those 2 healthy people in the crowd of dozens and dozens of other infected people. It really feels like the zombie plague is taking hold, and it's spreading in all directions, and you just can't stop it. It's out of control at that point. This is what makes this game really cool, is that it has those feelings. It brings that out. Like, it just feels like you got this. You got this. The first round, you wipe a whole row of people out, send them to the evacuation point. Easy peasy. We got this. And then you're like 3 or 4 rounds in, and you're like, this is out of control. We can't handle this. It's insanity. That's the hallmark of a good cooperative game. It's difficult. It's very difficult. And I'll be honest with you, I have not figured out how best to play this game. I'm very intrigued to find out, though. I keep wanting to go back and figure out more and more each time I play. I'm still trying to figure out the best uses of killing contaminated people and quarantining contaminated people, because quarantining them, it's great. They're out of the deck for 2 turns. Awesome. But they infect more people quicker than just killing them does. Killing them, they'll just stand back up because they're zombies. You know, you shoot them, they'll stand back up the next turn, get back in your deck. But if you quarantine them, they're stuck for at least 1 turn, but they'll infect people the next turn. It's crazy. It's very difficult to decide which is best in the moment. And they both have their strengths, but you got to decide which strength is going to work for you in this particular game. It's really fun in that capacity. I think they did a great job with the iconography at the bottom of each one of the cards. As you reveal the cards, those icons, you're like, all right, does this icon trigger? You look at the whole crowd. Do these icons show up elsewhere, and do they make them trigger? And if they trigger, you have to put new people out. Sometimes you have to reveal people. Sometimes they spread the infection. You have to put more zombies into your deck. Sometimes you have to draw a Raxxon card. And the Raxxon cards are just fun. That's sort of like the Crossroads cards in Dead of Winter. You read the story, and there's almost always 2 bad options. Some of them are actually funny because the options are, this one's obviously great, and this one's obviously bad, so why would I ever take the bad one? Well, because later it comes back to bite you in the rear that you picked the good one. That's what's so cool about this game in that part of the theme, right? Like, there is a little story playing out with those cards, and the cards sometimes work with the characters you're playing, like the mayor of the town. There's cards for him. If he's in the game, this one triggers. Really neat concept. It's a very simple game, but the mechanics work really well. And it's a really good cooperative game ultimately. I am feeling like I got a lot of replayability out of this game, because not only is it hard and I'm trying to figure out how to beat it, but it also has a lot of different ways that you can go about containing this problem. And let me go back and talk about when you take actions and you have those consequences. This is a really weirdo mechanic, and it was really hard to explain in the overview that I did. Whenever you take an action, you put the token down. Whenever you start your turn, any action that has a token on it, you have to do the consequences. Not that hard to grasp, but it was kind of hard to get it across because it's very different than normal games. This is cool because really it is hard to decide when you just got to pass. When you got to pass and say, I'm out for the round because, boy, these icons are just going to kill us. That's neat because it really makes you, it makes you decide, which action am I going to take? Am I going to fill this one up? Am I going to keep going and let those consequences keep happening? Or am I out? And then you have to time when you take certain actions because everybody's actions are just slightly different. And it impacts the game drastically because of those slight differences. This game's good. I really like this game. You know, it's a little bit abstract. It's not, the artwork's not beautiful and wonderful. The graphic design is good, but really just the game as a cooperative game, solid game. I like Raxxon. I highly recommend you check it out. And for $40, shipped for free in the United States, can't go wrong, really. This game's good. Find somebody who owns this game, ask them for an invite. I think you'll dig it. Thanks so much for watching my review of Raxxon. If you enjoy board game, miniatures games, role-playing game discussion, please check out our audio show, the Secret Cabal Gaming Podcast. You can find it at thesecretcabal.com or on iTunes. Until next time, have a good one.